All right, so I'm going to work some of these problems today from the Geometry EOC Study Guide that has been uploaded to Focus. And here we go with problem number 1. Kelvin is at his house located at 4,3 on the coordinate plane and walks to the store located at 1,0. So we've got this coordinate plane and he's at 3, 4 on the coordinate plane. And he's walking to the store that's at 1,0, and 1,0 would be right here, and this is the store. The store is halfway between Kelvin's house and Mitch's house. So Mitch lives down here somewhere. So the nearest tenth, what is the distance between Kelvin's house and Mitch's house? So we got to find the distance from this point here down to this point here. All right. Well, if we form this into a right triangle and we find this hypotenuse from S to K and then multiply it by 2, it'll give us the difference from K to M. So the horizontal piece of this triangle is 2. The vertical piece of this triangle is 4. And 2 squared plus 4 squared equals SK squared. And 2 squared plus 4 squared so 20 equals SK squared, and we need to find the square root of both sides. So the square root of 20 is 4.5. And that's equal to SK, but SK is only half the distance. So we take this 4.5 and multiply it by 2, and 9 gives us K to M. All right, so 8.9 right here. All right, in problem number 2, a circular sidewalk is being constructed around the perimeter of a park. A brick pathway will be added through the diameter of the circle as shown in the coordinate plane below. A tree will be planted in the sidewalk at the center of the circle. What is the x-coordinate where the tree will be planted? So if we find the midpoint between here and here, and all we need is the x value at the midpoint. So midpoint is the average of two values. So the x value at this top point is 9, and the x value at this bottom point is -1. If we add those two together, divide them by 2, 9 plus -1 is 8 divided by 2 equals 4. So the x-coordinate at the midpoint is going to be 4. So our x is equal to 4. In problem number 3, in the figure below, lines KM, and N are parallel. So K, M, N, they're all parallel. That makes these diagonal lines transversals. Okay? Now, if these diagonal lines are transversals, then angle 1 and this 50-degree angle are alternate interior angles, which makes this 50 degrees. We've got a linear pair of angles right here, which sum 180. So this 150 and this angle in here add up to 180. So this angle in here is 30 degrees. And the 30 degree and the angle 2 here are alternate interior angles, so this is 30 degrees. What is the sum of angle 1 and angle 2? Well, if angle 1 is 50 and angle 2 is 30, then the sum is 80 degrees. And that's answer A right there. Problem number 4. What regular polygon has an exterior angle that measures 360 degrees? The sum of the exterior angles of all polygons is 360. All polygons' exterior angles sum 360. Well, if you take 360 and you divide it by a regular polygon that has an exterior angle that measures 60. If we take the sum of the exterior angles, we divide it by one of them, it gives us each one. So 360 divided by 60 is 6. So the shape has 6 sides. And a shape with 6 sides is a regular hexagon. All right, problem number 5. Which is the equation of the circle shown below? All right. Standard form of an equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals the radius squared, where the h and the k are the values at the center of the circle. Well, if this horizontal line here goes from 6 to 0, then 3 is negative 3 here is the center of the circle. All right. And vertically, we go from positive 3 to negative 3. So our this vertical line running through the center also hits negative 3. So our center is right here, and it's located at negative 3, 0. The diameter of this circle is 6, which makes the radius 3. So the center of this circle is, or the formula for this circle is x, and then the opposite of the x value at the center, so x plus 3. Oops. X plus 3 squared plus y and the opposite of the y value at the center. Well, we're not going to write y plus 0, so we're just going to go with y squared equals the radius squared. Well, if our radius is 3, then our radius squared is 9. So we got answer choice D right here. Problem number 6, a solid glass sphere is cast with a radius of 30. What is the volume? On your reference sheet, and you take the EOC, the volume of a sphere is given. It's equal to 4/3 times pi times the radius cubed. So this volume is equal to 4/3 times pi times 30 raised to the third. And 30 raised to the third is just 30 times 30 times 30. So times pi button times 4/3 equals, I get 113.097.3. So 113.097. Looks like we're right here. I may be that far off because I used the pi button instead of 3.14. But this is the formula for volume of a sphere, and you're going to make sure that you cube the radius. All right, problem number 7, you're trying to prove that a quadrilateral is square. You have already proven that all 4 sides are congruent. All right, so if you know that all 4 sides are congruent, you've proven this. Which statement, if true, would prove this is a square? Well, if we start looking, I'm going to start at answer choice D down here. Answer choice D says the adjacent angles are supplementary. Adjacent angles are supplementary. That's true in a square, but in a rectangle, adjacent angles are supplementary as well. So that doesn't prove that this shape is a square. Answer choice C says the opposite angles are congruent. Well, opposite angles of a rectangle are also congruent, so that doesn't prove that we've got a square. Opposite sides are congruent. Opposite sides of a rectangle are congruent, so that doesn't prove this is a square. But the diagonals are congruent. The diagonals of a square are not only congruent, but they are perpendicular. And that's just a rule related to a square. The diagonals in a the diagonals are congruent. The diagonals in a rectangle may also be congruent, but since we know that all sides are congruent and the diagonals are congruent, then we have a definition of a square. Problem number 8. Polygon STUVW is shown below. All right. After the polygon is reflected across the y-axis, what are the coordinates of S prime? The image of point S after the transformation. So if we're going across the y-axis, all that means is we're taking point S, we're going to the other side of the y-axis along a perpendicular, which is along a horizontal line, and we need to be the same distance away. So right now we're 5 units away from the y-axis, so we need to go 5 units to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units to the right would be S prime, and its coordinates would be at +5 and -2. Answer choice C. When you're reflecting across the y-axis, your x values basically become opposite and your y values stay the same. All right, problem number 9. We've got a rope is tied to the bottom of a hot air balloon as shown below. The rope makes an angle 35 degrees with the ground and is 75 feet long. How far is the bottom of the balloon from the ground to the nearest foot? Okay, so Katoa. We've got an angle. We're looking for the opposite side, and we have the hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse is sine, so sine 35 equals the opposite side, which is the question mark, over the hypotenuse, which is 75. Can multiply both sides by 75. So 75 times 35 sine equals 43 feet. So 43 is equal to our question mark, and that's answer choice A. When you see a sine, cosine, tangent problem, Make sure you write this down on your worksheet. A lot of problems were missed throughout the school year when students used the wrong trig ratio. And each time that I looked at the paper when they missed the problem by using the wrong ratio, they didn't have SOHCAHTOA written on their paper. So just write it on your paper. You know how to do the work after that. Number 10 tells you the captain of a submarine views an iceberg from his periscope as shown in the figure below. What is the height of the iceberg to the nearest meter? This is another sine, cosine, tangent problem. You have an angle, you need the opposite side, and you're given the adjacent side. So we're looking for the height of this iceberg. So I'll call it H. Opposite and adjacent is tangent. So tan 40 equals the opposite side over the adjacent side. So multiply both sides by 250. And 250 times 40 tan. 209.8. Answer choice C. Number 11, below is the drawing of Jeff's yard. There's a circular fish pond near one corner. The diameter of the pond is 12. How many square feet of grass are necessary to cover everything except the pond in Jeff's yard? So we're going to sod everything inside this trapezoid except for the pond. So that's area of the trapezoid minus area of the pond equals area of the sodded. So this trapezoid, and this is on your reference sheet, the area of the trapezoid is equal to 0.5 times the height of the trapezoid, which is 60, times base 1 plus base 2, and that's 70 plus 100. So 0.5 times 60 times 170. That's 5,100. The area of this pond is equal to, it's a circle, so it's pi times radius squared. So pi times, if the diameter is 12, then the radius is 6, so it's pi times 6 squared, which is 36 times pi, 113.1. And we're going to subtract. So 5,100 minus 113.1, 4986.9. And that's 4987 right there. Problem number 12, what is the converse of a statement? All right, you got a conditional statement, P arrow Q. If hypothesis, then conclusion. Then the converse is when you switch them. All right, you switch the hypothesis and you switch the conclusion. The hypothesis is what's after the if. The conclusion is what's after the then. So we got to take this conclusion, it is a stop sign, and put it after the if. So they all start with if a road, if a road, if a road. They all start with if the hypothesis. We need to start with if the conclusion. So answer choice D is the only one that starts with if stop sign is red, then, I'm sorry, stop sign is red, then it is a road sign. If a road sign is red, then it is a stop sign. Converse of the statement. So we need if it is a stop sign, then the road sign is red. It is a stop sign. If a road sign is a stop sign, yeah, you're right. So I guess just make sure that you read these all the way through. I guess write out the converse and then match the statement because they move a few of the words around right here. So here's the converse if it is a stop sign. So if a road sign is a stop sign, then it is red. All right. All right, problem number 13. The diameter of a tractor tire is 5 feet. Rounded to the nearest hundredth, how far will the tractor move when the wheel rotates once? So how far this tractor will move when the wheel rotates once is equivalent to the circumference of this tire. And circumference of a circle is 2 times pi times the radius, or circumference equals pi times diameter. So since they tell you the diameter is 5, then the circumference equals pi times 5. Sorry. What's that? And that's 15.7. And that is answer choice B. All right, engineer designed steel beam shown below. The horizontal parts that form the top and bottom are parallel. So this is parallel to this. To build the cross pieces, the engineer needs to know the measure of the angle shown. The measure of angle 1 is 110. Angle 2 is 105. What are the measures of 3 and 4? Well, since the top and the bottom are parallel, then these become transversals. These diagonals are both transversals. And angle 3 is an alternate interior angle to angle 2. So this is 105. And angles 1 and 4 are alternate interior angles, so this is 110. So 3 is 105, 4 is 110. Answer choice D. Problem number 15, what is the measure of E in the parallelogram below? All right, this is just a rule regarding parallelograms where consecutive angles are supplementary. So angle E plus 35 equals 180. So subtract 35 from each side. And angle E is equal to 145. All right, finally, number 16. It says a meter stick is perpendicular to the ground. So here's a meter stick. It's perpendicular to the ground. The meter stick is 1 meter tall. It forms a shadow that's 1.8 meters long. So here's the meter stick and here's the shadow. Okay? At the same time, a flagpole, here's the flagpole, forms a shadow that is 7.2 long. This is just a proportion. So how tall is the flagpole? Here's the flagpole. I'm going to do 1 over 1.8 equals the flagpole over 7.2. So crisscross multiply. 1 times. Oops. So 1.8 times F is 1.8F. 1 times 7.2, 7.2. And divide both sides by 1.8. So the height of the flagpole is 4 meters. All right, so that's the first 16 problems of that study guide. That's all we have time for today.